stream and then get all the way through to the YouTubes. Ladies and gentlemen, I do believe we are going live. Only a few minutes later than advertised. But welcome to our live stream for this evening. I'm your host, Adam Steele, as always, but with me tonight is Chris Taylor. Hello!
Hello!
So, this is going to be a slightly more metal one than usual. I mean, the last stream that I did was for kind of an Evanescence-y, Paramore-y kind of thing.
Yeah.
This one, not so much. This one,
A little more extreme.
Yeah. This hasn't been mixed yet, but this sounds a bit more like this. So, of course, tonight's aim is going to be to get this to be as brutal as possible. So, without further ado, roll the intro! There we go, and I'm assuming you couldn't hear the intro there, Chris, because of the wonders of technology.
Oh, yeah,
But as long as the viewers at home could hear it, that's what really counts. Now, yes, the technical setup for this one has been quite complicated, so that Chris can hear the track being played in real time, he can hear me, but also you guys at home can hear all of that and him without him getting a feedback loop. Blah.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's been an interesting day of tech. But here we are. We have... does this song have a name?
It was called Serotonin.
Right, okay.
I don't know if that... I think that was just a working title. I don't know if that's actually a thing. It's not... I don't even know if it's a band.
Right.
So, you know.
So now it's by some people unknown.
Pretty much, yeah.
That is truly, truly metal. So,
well,
yes, I am...
2 or 3 of us, they know. So you're me, obviously.
Course.
You're on the track.
Yes, I am.
And Lee.
Yes,
and
Lee,
Lee,
who did the Challenge Accepted videos with us.
Yeah.
That was rather hilarious videos where we got some great tones out of it. Using Kettner Warp 7, as well as a Line 6 Spider, and what else did we get on that series? Roland Cube. Ugh.
Yeah.
Ow. Mop. Rip headphones.
Yep, sorry. So we found that pretty much worked as a good head.
Yes,
kind of thing,
yeah, but we did have to find ways to separate it from its speakers. Because, yeah, the speakers in the cube are kind of good if you're in the room, but not for recording. Woof.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, speaking of which, one of the guitars on this, was this a Roland Cube? This guitar that I've pulled in?
This was the Roland Cube using the headphone out.
Right.
So, some background on this. The original recording of this was done about 6-7 years ago.
Right.
So this would be the Roland Cube going into an Alesis USB multi-mix.
Apparently you're very quiet. Although my meters say otherwise.
Should I just give it a little juice?
Yeah, just give it a bit.
Yep. How's that?
I mean, it looks the same to me, but we'll find out in chat.
Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, this RG8 into with EMGs 808s into the Roland Cube into the Alesis multi-mix USB.
Ooh, nice. And without any processing, it sounded like this.
Yeah.
Something I can only describe as a large bunch of farts.
Pretty much, yeah.
So, that's a good place to start on this mix, actually, because that's something that I've kind of done some tweaks to this in stages, but tonight we're really going to hammer it into being what I would call a proper mix and not just throwing together bits of demos. So,
yeah.
This is the first thing that I did to that guitar. Was there were a couple of absolutely horrible spikes, and the top end was just useless. So I made up for that
Yeah.
with a big mid push. There we go.
Yeah.
Can anybody else not hear the track? Because that's definitely coming out on the meters in OBS.
Let me just check the live feed.
Okay.
I got it. I got it on the YouTube video.
Yeah. Well, that's what counts. Yeah. Okay. So it's not going to be the loudest guitar source in the world. We are mixing here, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to need to turn up your headphones or your speakers because when I turn the solo off, it's going to do this. And it's going to be quite loud. Okay, so
Apparently my camera's frozen. Am I moving at all?
Your camera is frozen. That's there we go. That could have been just OBS having a derp, or it could have been, who knows. Problem fixed.
I think maybe.
Oh right.
On my feed.
No, I know what it is. If I minimize Discord, then it stops. So if I just leave it unminimized but leave it in the background, that'll be fine.
There we go.
Oh, yeah. Tech issues. Lee here from Hubert's Archive. Okay. Right, so this is that guitar with those. Let's just turn off those mid scoops and you'll hear what I'm doing here. So there's a certain if I turn those off, it sounds a bit soft.
Bit more focused.
Yeah, it's not very well defined, but that's the next thing I did is I opened up a good old virtual mix rack, heavily gated it.
Okay.
And then there's just some drive, well, a lot of drive on the virtual console channel there, but that's not distortion drive, that's just kind of character. I took out the super low end with some saturation on that Hollywood preamp, and then really pushed the mids there. And that's it, that's all it needed. Because the high end becomes brighter again because of the saturation and the drive, it doesn't need any EQ. It just naturally is brighter. Now, that's not going to be the focus of our mix, that guitar, because that originally one of the options was to not have that guitar at all, but I thought it'd be something fun to talk about in terms of rescuing disgusting old guitars. So what we're really going to be looking at in the rest of this mix is bringing the drums and the bass together with some really heavy guitars. There's a guitar that I added here, which is very Meshuggah-y top line, which is that...
I believe that was pretty much the conversation we had was, it's a cool track, but we just need that Meshuggah on top.
Yes.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, it just added something in a frequency range that wasn't there at the time.
Yeah.
Which is why I kind of went up, because I was playing on this Telecaster that I've got behind me that's tuned in drop B, which you would think, well, if it's tuned so low, why are you playing so high? But it just kind of worked tonally. It just did the thing that I needed for that track.
Absolutely.
And that's what it's all about.
Me and Lee played in F.
Oof.
This track. Yeah. On 8 strings, naturally. But it worked out with you doing a higher register. Definitely. Yeah. Just to fill in that void.
Yeah. Well, that's it. So, I'm going to talk a little bit more about, because my guitars here, we're actually using a real PV5150 using a load box. So I'm using Torpedo Wall of Sound here, using my Tall Beast red cab, using the redback speaker, and it just has a thickness. The redback's got a real kind of weight and a thickness, which I didn't want a nasty fizzy tone on that, which is why if I just bring out some high end on that, it'll sound horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not what we need. It needed to be in an upper register, but not like dog whistle high. It just needed to be in that
Yeah.
kind of 3K region ish, but kind of spread across the whole spectrum. So that combined with yeah, they lock together quite well. I've not even covered the kind of what I would call the main guitars now. So this is I don't know what amp we were using before. I think it was Mark Studio or something like that. Oh, it was Bias Effects.
I was using bias effects at home with a Mark II C
Yeah,
plus. That was a custom
you're gonna
thing. It works at home because it's good. It was good, and it's fast to use. It gave you that texture straight away. It's like this is 8-string Meshuggah esque straight away.
So
I still like bias.
okay, you're gonna like this. I mean, this is archetype Nolly on those tracks, and so it's got overdrive. It's got typical 5150 type settings, bit of a mid scoop, bit of a high push, but not a lot.
Yep.
A little bit going on the EQ, and
Okay.
not a lot, just like a dB here and there, just a bit of a high push because it's not the brightest of amps.
Yeah.
And good old SM57 and a 421 on the cab. And that's it.
Okay.
So let's see how that sounds.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's brutal.
Yeah.
But if I mix that in with the other guitar and my guitar, this is what we get. So it's really heavy. But here's where you're going to really, really like this, is that we had a conversation, was it yesterday, about trying the other amps, and I never got round to trying the nameless amp or the NTS.
You haven't, have you?
Try this. Yeah, have a listen to this.
Oh. Oh, wow.
That, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to drag this over now, is the Amiga granafire.
Wow.
It just sounds incredible. It's got the Earthquake plumes in front of it, not doing very much. And yeah, the one thing I changed is this was a preset from Forrester Savell, which isn't that different from the default. And oh yeah, so I put a tiny bit of high-end push on the EQ, switched the mics around a little bit, and so with the 6L6s, which are the default, it sounded good. It sounded like this. So then I tried it with the EL34s, didn't like it. Then I tried it with the KT88s, and this.
Oh, it's so in your face.
That's just brutal.
Yeah.
So if I ever get a real one of these amps, I'm putting KT88s in it because that happens.
Wow.
Yeah, so the struggle now is going to be finding a way to fit the other guitars in with that. Because that just dominates. I mean, here's those with the with Lee's guitar. That's brutal. And the fizz from Lee's guitar actually kind of rounds it out a bit.
It kind of fills in the void, doesn't it?
Yeah, this is something I've noticed a lot in some real heavy bands. What they're doing at the moment is they're going back to using things like old Marshall valve states for a second track, because it's got that ridiculously mean fizzy top end, which on its own sounds awful, but it's mixed in with something that's got that real mid cut. I'll turn it on and off, actually. I'll play them both and turn the fizzy one off. Yeah, so between the two together, it sounds like an absolute chainsaw.
Yeah.
And then the guitar that I've added on top is just icing on the cake then. And that's with no, what I would call real mixing right there. That's just getting the source tones. Another one that I think you're going to like is the bass tone. So the bass tone that we had was Mark bass, which is really, really clean, DI, and the B7K, which on reflection, the B7K, I think you could have pushed a lot more, because this is what it sounds like. It's got a bit of fuzz to it.
Yeah.
But here's what I did. I turned that off entirely because I'm using parallax. So parallax kind of has like two B7Ks and like a clean low compressor all in one. It's pretty badass.
Okay.
And it sounds like this.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So just bring some low end in there.
You know what that bass was?
What?
It's a Fender Bronco.
Really? Oh yeah.
Tuned up to F. Tuned up to F with an EMG Music Man.
That's ridiculous. So
yeah.
So parallax, here's the low end, super clean.
Yep.
But it's got that compression on it. Here's the mids, which is really grindy.
Sounds like a fourth guitar.
Yeah. And then the high end has that real cutting clank on, and together, oh. But because that's coming right down the middle, that's going to cover a lot of our, well, I hate to use a pun, but our basses.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
there's just been a comment in the live chat. I'm just gotta get it up now.
Hello
as Mel as a black bass.
Yeah, a black bass animal. Yeah.
Are you seeing the animal? Are you played Animal Crossing yet?
No. I was thinking about getting a Switch, but now you can't buy one.
Oh, mate, there's that many puns in it. If you catch a black bass, it comes up. I call a black bass the most metal of fish.
That's amazing.
It's full of stuff like that. It's awesome. But yes, this is as metal as a black bass.
The most metal of fish. I like it. So, and the drums, I spent a bit of time earlier getting some source tones, because I don't have the superior drummer that you've got anymore. I'm all in on Stephen Slate drums, and Slate Drums 5.5 came out this week. So yes. I've basically recreated. Yeah, so this is the full version. So I went for a really high-pitched snare to try and cut through the mix with it.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the Hogan Slayer. Like,
Gene Hoglan. Yeah.
The blast beat.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking, because there's a lot of quite quick sections in this. If I went with something lower tuned, it just becomes... Whereas high tuned, it's got that...
Yeah.
Yeah, and the kick, I went with a proper OG Stephen Slate kick, which was kick 5 from his old samples, which basically all the others look like a kick drum, and this one's just got a warning sign on with devil horns that just says rock. And it's got that almost Black Album type thing to it.
Yeah.
So you get that real... Yeah, that snare... Something that's really cool in slate drums is there's a channel called ring, which if I just solo it, you hear that. You can basically what they've done is they've notched out all the rings on the snare,
Okay.
but they've then put that like inverted phase and kept it and put it on a separate track.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So what you can do is you can dial it back in at 0 dB, so all the rings back, or you can take it out entirely.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so you can almost you can virtually put a little bit of moon gel on.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's very clever. Because it means that I don't need to spend ages looking for those rings. I can literally just pull them out. Or in the case of a particularly metal track, bring a lot of it back. Because I like quite a lot of that ring. As long as it's not like Saint Anger, dong, 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 dong. And a little bit of ring helps that snare cut through on a track like this and gives it some life. Yeah. So, I mean, the way that I'm probably going to start the mix is we're going to ignore the vocals for a little while. And
yeah, that's a whole different kettle of fish.
Oh, they're fun though. I did a little bit of work with them before and they sound pretty brutal now. So, yeah,
cool.
I'll definitely be coming back to them. But yeah, there's my effects are at the end here. What have I got? I've got delays. I'm going to add in a couple of rooms, I think. So I've got like small room and big room. Something that I do quite a lot on a mix now is I have a small room and a big room, and you can't see them because they're behind our faces here, right at the end of the project. In fact, I'm going to move the effects group over so you can all see it.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a small room and a big room, and I literally just have 2 copies of Verb Suite Classics, an EQ afterwards. It takes out all the low end. So my small room is what I do in pretty much every mix, which is I have a Bricasti BM7, Studio B Close. And so what that does is it's got almost no reverb tail. So if I was... Good example probably is the bass. I use this on bass, would you believe? Room reverb on bass? Oh. Heresy.
Oh.
But here's the thing, and I'm just going to solo it with the bass, is it gives the bass a sense of space in a mix. If I turn this off and then... There we go. So it sounds almost too big now. So if I bring that back... But I use that small reverb particularly to really glue a track together. So I use a fair bit on drums, but individually. So I'll definitely be using some on the snare. Probably quite a lot. Ooh. Sounds like one of those guitars is going to that small room and I didn't know about it. So let's just get rid of that for now. There we go, yeah. So we go from a real flat sounding snare to something that's got a bit more space. It's not magically 3D or anything. That's what the big room's supposed to be for. So I'm going to have to do a bit of experimenting with this big room now. And I'm probably going to need to do what I call the Andy Wallace trick as well, which is a whole separate kettle of fish. So let's solo this big room and see what we can pull out that sounds huge. And it might be the same unit, but Studio B far. Let's listen to that.
Okay.
If I turn the width up on that, give it a little bit pre-delay, bit high end. There we go. So that sounds about 3 miles wide, and that's just the reverb There's no reverb tail on it. It's not what people expect when
No.
they think reverb. But that with this
Yeah,
snare
when you
now.
think you're putting reverb on the snare, you are thinking that kind of
Yeah.
kind of big.
Oop. Right, no, I don't want that pre-delay on there because it sounds like gdonk gdonk. Let's try that again.
So doubles.
Yeah. Because it's not got that soft thing in, it's so immediate. Putting a pre-delay on just makes it sound like a gdonk gdonk. There we go. Oh. So the snare close mic's gone from this to this.
Yeah.
So let's try the whole kit now. Okay, so the snare's a little loud. It might need a little EQ work, but if I leave the reverb on while we do the EQ work, that should give us some pretty brutal stuff. So let's look at the room mics. Brutals.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to take some of that room out of the kick drum. Because that's one of the good things about virtual drums is I can pretend that basically I put a massive pillow quilt covering over the kick drum so there's less in the room.
Yeah.
So I get a much more focused room sound. And I probably don't want to compress the room at all on a metal track.
Okay.
I might do a little bit parallel compression on the overall drum bus, but I don't want to do too much of that kind of thing on extreme metal, because on a big rock track, it gives you that big thing, which I really like. Yeah. But on metal, it'll just confuse everything. We do want things to be fairly clinical. The overheads are probably going to play a much bigger part in this for me than they normally would on a rockier track. On a rockier track, for me, it's more room, less overhead to give me that big sound. Here, I want to hear each cymbal. I want to hear things being, and taking a lot of cues from modern Devin Townsend stuff. There's not that much in the way of the overheads and the room compared to the close mics. But then you fit your guitars and bass in underneath your close mics, and everything suddenly sounds massive.
Okay.
Yeah, it's quite a kind of clever approach to it, but yeah, let's see. There we go. So I've just pushed some 3K on the room because they're probably ribbons. They're not very bright. And it just means that snare now goes a bit more. So speaking of overheads, there we go. So that's my overhead with no processing apart from the usual. Every channel on the drum bus, by the way, has got virtual channel with the SSL, and they're all grouped together. So if I change anything, it'll change all of them. It's just as if I'd tracked the drums through an SSL console. Very clever, very nice. So yeah, what I probably want for the overheads is to use a custom series EQ because it's very gentle, very like tube EQ. There's no kick drum in there at all. So I can, there we go, take that 600 hertz out. Really push that 12K. There we go. And what I'm probably going to do is get FG stress on this and nuke it. Yeah, absolutely. I'm finding I when it came out, I used it on everything, and now I'm a little more judicious. But for what I want, let's just. That's perfect for me on the overheads here. It's just nuke it. Don't even blend it. Just nuke it because there's no kick drum distorting that overhead. It's nice and clean. what I wanted this to do was to kind of put the snare in its place amongst the cymbals.
Yeah.
Because now if I blend that with the room, I'll probably end up bringing these both down a bit. There we go. Add the that snare in. What's on the snare? Yeah, nothing apart from that drive. And now I'm going to go back into Stephen Slate drums, because one thing I did have that I kind of wanted to add a little bit of is there was a sample in there, one of the new Stephen Slate OG one-shots, one of his hybrids.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I had it muted before. I'm just going to bring that in. So that's it way too loud. There we go. So that's it sat just underneath that main snare. I'm going to turn it on and off just so you can hear the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. There's that bit of weight to it.
Yeah, we've still got the character of that main snare, because that's what I really want. Originally, I had 2 different snares layered, and that often doesn't work for me in a faster track, because the 2 had different fundamentals and different harmonics, and it kind of sounded like I was playing 2 piano notes at once. That horrible kind of chopsticks kind of vibe going on. So the these hybrid kind of snare samples don't have any ring in them. They just have a bit of a dish dish. It's definitely meant and designed as a reinforcement.
Yeah.
Something I'm really coming to realise recently is that good snare and kick reinforcement samples don't really have the characteristics of a kick and a snare. Because if they do, you're doubling up on those characteristics, and if they're in not exactly the right place, it sounds really weird.
Sure, yeah. It's an enhancement, not a replacement.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, so what I can do now is, if I want to, I can add a bit more low-end richness on this snare bus, but not go crazy with it. It just gives me a bit more weight under it. There we go. There we go. And there was a bit of a tubbiness on the snare, which I've taken out around 400 hertz, which I just felt just took a bit out. And between them, there we go. I should probably mention that the whole drum bus does have there's a this compressor that's not on right now, and there's also True Iron is just giving it a little bit of weight. If I turn off True Iron,
there it is.
Yeah, if I turn that off and turn it on, yeah. So now for the elephant in the room of this kick that's going at 100 miles an hour. There we go. So the kick's got no real presence to it, even though it's got that nice slappy thing. So first thing we're going to do is add a little bit of that small room reverb, but not a lot. There we go. So that's off, and that's on. It's at almost minus 10 dB. It's just giving it a bit of space away from the middle, which it's a funny thing. You think, why would you put reverb on a kick drum? But again, it's that sense of space. And as long as it's very subtle and just done right, the reverb send itself has a low cut. So there's no coming in from the reverb. So it is just to give it a sense of space. And I find that, especially when the kick's going brrr, that in the reverb, as long as it's really low, just gives it more power without losing definition. It's a bit of a weird kind of thing. So what I'm going to do now is my favourite EQ, the Neve EQ on this kick. And I'm probably going to add frequencies that you would think you shouldn't be adding. Probably around, I don't know, low mids.
Okay.
There we go. And then probably just a bit more high mid and a bit more high. Don't need to go crazy on the high end because this particular kick already has a scooped mid, loads of high end.
Yeah.
So just adding a tiny bit more high end is like a multiplier. And adding some low mid in this particular instance, because this kick sample doesn't have much of it, just gives it a presence back. And again, the Neve EQ is so gentle and so kind of broad that it's not just adding a sudden muddy thump. That's with. That's without. And with.
Okay. Yeah. Definitely like lifting the blanket a little bit and kind of.
Yeah, that's it. And kind of giving it a definition on each ba 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 ba. Because otherwise it's just going to turn into a string of just tick, 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 tick with a underneath, which is no good for me. It's no bueno. We need definition in there. We need it to have a very definite ba 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 ba.
Yeah.
So what I've also just done there is I've put the high pass filter up to about 40 hertz just to get rid of the super low stuff.
Yeah.
And actually pushed it on the 100-ish hertz band a tiny bit on this Neve, like less than 2 dB of push, just to almost move it up a little bit, because again in a slower track that sub feels weighty, but on an extreme fast track it just doesn't help. So now there we go. Starting to get there, I think.
Yeah.
I'm really feeling like the snare now needs more top end to help it stand out, but there we go. This custom series equalizer never gets nasty when you push it. It's great.
No.
It's kind of Pultec-ish, where it's got that really sweet valve thing where if you push it really hard, it just saturates a little bit rather than going horrible on you. So, I mean, as a basic drum sound... Oh yeah, let's bring the toms in. Try and find a section where there's some toms. Oh, hello. Cool, so the toms probably just need a little bit of a mid push, if anything.
Yeah.
There we go. Again, because those toms were quite mid-scooped. So, that's our drum bus. Now, that snare still sounds a little bit kind of cloudy and muffled. So what I might do at this point is add a couple of samples.
Oh.
This is where, I'll pull up. This is where it gets clever, because I start to use trigger. Stephen Slate trigger. And because I'm sending the snare to trigger, I'm treating it like a real snare. There we go. So I'm just gonna solo this, and right now it's making no sound at all. It's a very clean trigger, of course it is. And I'm gonna just start with trigger snares. And start with snare 01.
Why not?
Why not, indeed. Play. There we go. Right. Not quite what I had in mind. Although, having said that, let's see how the room sounds. Ooh, the room sounds kind of like what I had in mind. Let's see how this sounds in context with the rest of the kit. Too loud, obviously, but...
Yeah, but there's nice character in that.
Right, I'm going to turn down the actual snare sample so that the room snare sample comes out more. Cool. Definitely getting somewhere. I'm going to use an EQ after that just to take some of that mid stuff out. Where is it? There we go. So I'm actually muting that close snare trigger and just using the room. I'm going to find a nice room, but this is what I was talking about when I said the Andy Wallace trick earlier. Andy Wallace, who mixed Nirvana's Nevermind, Rage Against the Machine's Evil Empire, loads of stuff. He's very well known for doing this. Oh, that might be the one. Yeah, so what he does is he adds a room snare sample. And so, yeah, but only the room underneath the real snare. So the real snare gets all the performance, but when you smack it, it goes like this.
Ah, okay.
There we go. I've just took a big 500 hertz cut out of that longer room reverb because that's what was giving us a bit of the honk on the snare. And I'm going to try and do a bit on the actual snare as well with an SSL EQ, which is super surgical compared to the custom series.
Yeah.
Where is it? There. There we go.
Yeah.
Brutals. Let's look at this compressor and see if we can't add a bit of this in. This is the Monster, and I tend to have it at almost default settings because it's an 1176 with all buttons in, so it just smashes everything. But if I just add a little bit of this into a drum bus, it does give me something that I like. So I'm going to try it with zero mix and then blend it in. There we go. So the next thing that I've done there is I just took the overheads and room just down because with the compression then I don't need as much of them.
No.
Now here's the thing, we're already hitting -6 on our peaks on the master bus, so if now turning the overheads and room down makes everything sound quieter, don't turn up everything. turn up your headphones or turn up your studio monitors, or, if it doesn't sound loud enough now, turn up your monitoring situation to suit, and suddenly you'll be like, oh, there it is. That's how all my kick and snare and everything sound brutal. So let's pull in this bass now on top of the drums. Not bad, but we can really, really beast this now. I mean, if we're going full Meshuggah, I saw the multi-tracks for the first Meshuggah album a while back, and my jaw was on the floor. I was just like, whoa, because the bass tone was like, see if I can recreate it quickly for you. It was like this. Yep, so I'm going to turn that down a little, but seriously, it sounds ridiculous, and it sounds like we're going to need a bit more low end on that kick drum to compensate to balance this out now. But when the guitars come in, suddenly you're like, oh, right, got you. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Guitars swallow mid-range. They just eat it for breakfast. So with the bass, it sounds like you're not. It sounds like you're going a bit too far. This is metal. We're supposed to go too far.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's meant to be a bit obnoxious, a bit over the top.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give the low end on the kick a little bit more. I'm gonna take down. There was something. Yeah, the 200 hertz knob in parallax down a little bit. That's not got any guitars in, and it's already absolutely brutal. So let's add in that fizzy guitar now. Just slowly bring up the volume on it. Yep, now let's bring in the granafire, which is going to dominate everything. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Like I was saying, that extra brutality in the right places. Yeah, and I've not done anything to those guitars apart from we got decent sounds with them, and we just pulled the levels up.
Jesus.
Yes.
Oh.
So, yeah. There you go.
Carry on without me. I'll be back in.
Sure.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're absolutely getting somewhere now. There is a solo that I put over a kind of very, what's the word? It was very Meshuggah-y. So let's see if we can fit that in, and we'll talk about the vocals in a good couple of minutes. So at the end there, those guitars, that's those and an extra 2 that I added in. Which it sounds like they're going to need a bit more level at this point, because that's the same channel that those guitars are on. Yes. So let's just see if I can get a bit more level on them to bring them in, make that absolutely ginormous as an ending. Brutals. Back to the start. So there is an intro. Let's see if the snare lives up to the intro. Hello.
Hi, Luke.
Yeah.
So that is Lewis on vocals.
Yeah. So I thought I'd just quickly bring that in to see where we'd got to. That's something that will need some processing, but I've done some of the work already. So it needed a lot of breaths cut out and that kind of thing, because I've... oh, hello. Man down. Mop. Apologies to the headphones.
Oh, sorry.
I'll live. I used to be a bass player. I don't need ears.
Someone's just commented, this sounds like the new Doom Eternal music.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I saw that.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's...
I had some industrial vibes, it is.
Yeah, it's just... But yeah, it's... Yeah, so the vocals... oh, what is doing that? Is that a loose cable on your mic? Ow.
That, yes, no.
It's not doing it now. But yeah, apologies to everyone in chat. Oh, wow. Right. So... Anyway, yeah, so the lead vocal, I've got this plugin, Howard Benson Vocals, from Joey Sturgis Tones, and it's really good. So
I heard you use it on minutes to recover.
yes, which means you wouldn't think it'd work on this, but it's made by Joey Sturgis. It's gonna work.
Yeah, like there's extreme vocal, and I thought this is probably the most extreme vocal we have available.
So
because Lewis's techniques based on maybe like pig squealing, inhales, bits of all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So I've quickly just turned this back to default, so everything's off. So the vocal sounds like this by default. Right, so there's a plate reverb. I'm going to turn that off as well. Epic plate? Oh, I think I put something in there. Oh no, you had something in there. It was an FG 2016.
Yes.
Nice choice.
Yeah, it was just what I went with
Yeah.
at the time.
It has a real I'm a reverb unit kind of sound, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's not...
I think that's what I was kind of after.
Yeah.
It was one of them, need to use a reverb. Yeah, this definitely sounds like a reverb.
A reverb that is self-aware. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, first thing I did is this thing's got a compressor, which I basically just went all. So it now sounds like this. Yep, then there's a tube warmth button, which just makes it sound that bit nicer. Then there's the grit knob, which, if I pull it all the way, will sound silly, but too much. So if I just back that off, yeah, so it gives it more distortion, which is going to push it forward in the mix.
Yeah.
So
I remember on my old mixes, I used to get the TSE 808 pedal.
Oh yeah.
I used to put that in, drive it to hell on the vocal channel, and then use the Reaper mix and dial.
Yeah, this
way back when.
This project did actually have an 808 on like a send. So because I'm doing this, I got rid of it only because I've got this option.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what I tend to do now with the EQ section, there's a couple of buttons. High pass filter, yes. And there's pre-comp, which makes the EQ then go before that compression.
Oh, cool.
Which means it then really affects how the compressor works. So I can really scoop a load of this low end out, because in a modern mix, especially in a metal mix, low end in vocals is our enemy. Really don't want it.
Yeah.
And then
it loses that focus.
It does. And if I take a bit of this kind of 800-ish hertz, kind of garble out, we might get some more clarity. I'm going to take the grit down again and turn the tube warmth off, maybe. No, tube warmth. I don't want the I don't want...
I like the warmth.
Yeah, I don't want the hi-fi quality on the top. There we go. And then there's width. If I mono the low end, I can just make it magically sound a little bit wider. It's a nice kind of mono-compatible, subtle widener. I don't want to go crazy with the widening, because I've got another vocal track I can do that with.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to add a little bit of echo. Because it's a really nice echo, that if you just add just a little bit. And then the size on the vocal. If I turn the size right down and then just add a little bit, this will help it pop over the mix. Too much? There we go. Let's try that over the mix and mute the other vocals for now. It's not a bad start.
Yeah.
Mix rack to the rescue. There's a mix rack on the vocal bus and it's doing nothing apart from a bit of channel drive. Actually, I'll change that out for the mix bus rather than mix channel. Just because I'm going to do that on every group, I think, just to give it an extra tiny little bit of... Because it's a lot less saturated, the mix bus, than it is on a channel. Because the mix buses are designed to have much higher headroom. So, fun fact. Don't want too much niceness in here. Don't need any of that. One thing I want to do is take out loads of low endies in this SSL EQ, because the SSL filter is brutal, where the Neve one's really nice. Cool. And then I'm going to try and use this green EQ to find that in the bottom end and really just tame it. There. Whoa, 260 hertz. Take that out a bit. I think I'm going to widen it a bit more, actually, as the main, even as the main vocal, because it just, for this kind of track, it'll give it that kind of Whitechapel-y, super... Blah. There we go. I don't want to go overboard on that because it's all too easy to lose a main vocal.
Yeah.
And that's mainly it. So I've got loads of compression going on, clearing out loads of low end, bit of clever stereo widening. There's loads of different plugins you can use for that. I use Microshift quite a lot. And then I'm really taming that low end again. So tame the low end, tame the low end, tame the low end. And maybe I can put a little bit of that big epic plate back on it now. Still needs a de-esser. Luckily, I've got my Waves dongle plugged in right now, so I can do that. There we go. For when you want it to be nice and simple, Waves de-esser, default settings, pull it down a bit. Thank you very much. Off we go.
It's such a good plugin.
Yeah. So there were some vocals which I pulled off onto a track called Extra Vox. They were.
Oh, okay. I know this. I know which section it is.
Let's have a look.
Yeah.
Ine Jock. And there were a couple of extra bits later on where they were really overlapped, so I pulled them onto their own track. So here. So I just found that having them on their own track rather than being on the same track gave me a bit more control. What I did want to do for effect is go absolutely ham on the stereo on this. So this is where the Howard Benson, the multiplier, and the width without the mono button. Burp derp indeed.
It's such a ridiculous vocal.
Yeah.
Where he's like, so it's like in key with your guitar, so it sounded brilliant.
It's the most ridiculous thing. Let's find. Sounds like he's flushing a toilet. There we go. So I've really pushed the high end on that actually to get a bit of detail back. brutals.
Yeah.
And let's see if that affects the other little bits the way that I wanted it to. Yeah, so they're cool, just a little loud, but I can use a bit of volume automation to pull them down a little bit, because they don't need to be quite so much. So they're kind of ear candy sections. Yes.
That was the point of them ones, to be honest. It was to separate the verses and give it a bit more flavor.
Yeah. So now that they're starting to sit in that mix a bit, let's bring in guttural backing. Everybody's friend, Mr. Guttural backing. So
Yeah, you thought this was gonna. This is. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So this is another bit where I wanted to go a bit kind of stereo happy. There we go. So I've really scooped out before the compressor on this. Because this one particularly, the low end was crushing. Was it like an SM58 or something right in his mouth?
It was this ISK.
Oh, right.
Still.
Because it's got loads of low end. So was he like right on top of it?
He was pretty much right on top of it, and it's inhaling.
Yeah. It's like in between the breaths, I've had to really heavily edit it because the waves, I'll find one for you. So here's just a random section in between. That one's not the best example, but there were a good few. There's one. That's a breath.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
That's a breath.
Yeah, there we go. So that is a breath. What the hell? So, yeah, had to go in and edit them. But, yeah. This didn't need much grit there. But this was a lot of fun. Just... The time will come, Doctor. Sounds like my ex getting fruity. Nice. If that's the case, consult your doctor.
Wow.
Right, let's blend that in with the original and see how that sounds before we put it back in the mix. Yeah. I'm going to push the high end before the compressor on that to see if I can give it a bit of clarity. I mean, clarity for what it's worth. I know.
Yeah. Clarity is interesting.
Yeah, there it is. It just doesn't sound muffly now. I mean, it is what it is, but let's try that in the mix. There's still a bit too much low end in this whole group. This is something that I've noticed that my good luminary Nolly does a lot. There's no low end in any of his vocals. I mean, not even close. beginning to wonder now if that whole thing's just a bit too loud. Because let's play it without the vocals. Yeah, without the vocals, the whole thing sounds brutal. With the vocals, it all sounds a bit soft. Which, in my experience now, tells me that the vocal's too loud. Because it's smothering everything.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is just turn it down and then try and poke it out at a relevant EQ spot. So that it comes through without just dominating. There we go. That didn't take much.
Yeah.
At first, your ears, because you've just heard that, go, that's not right. But then if you just let everything adjust for a second, and in fact, let's just chat for a second and just not play it.
Yeah.
That what I did right. What I did there is I took a good couple. Yeah, the vocal group's at -6 point something dB now. But I've given it a good crank on that custom series EQ, which, like I said, is not a very obvious sounding EQ. 4K and at 12K, so real kind of vocal cut and vocal air frequencies.
Yeah.
And let's see how that sounds now. Yeah, and so I brought the vocals back by 1 dB and just poked the 1K EQ on the Neve out by, again, 1 dB. And suddenly they just sat.
Picking out what you actually wanted from that.
Yeah, but by doing it by a single dB rather than a big EQ crank, other than on really nice EQs. Wow, someone in chat just said rapture is near. Jesus is coming very soon. Wow. I mean, to be fair, we're playing what you would call the antithesis of that.
Well, yeah.
But, you know, it's all just noises. It's all just fun.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's pull those down a bit, because that's killing everything.
Yeah.
Starting to lose that Meshuggah guitar now. probably automate that vocal to go crazy on delay there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was Luz's original. It's a proper slam kind of deathcore immure kind of shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one. I called it delay verb for some reason. I think it's because I put so much delay on it sounded like a reverb. I mean, don't quote me on that, but
yeah, sure.
Yeah. So that it's a copy of Echo Boy. Why is it a minus 11? I never do minus 10 on anything. Something you'll notice about my faders compared to the way it was before is I have all my faders very close to 0. I like to try and work in an analog kind of way. If something's coming out my bus too loud, I don't pull the fader down all the way. I'll try and gain stage all the plugins.
Yeah.
Also helps to prevent any distortion, unwanted distortion happening at the wrong part in the chain. So that's now going to be 10 times louder on the delay verb. Yeah, was it plus 3 dB on the solo? Can now be at more like minus 6, and was it plus 12 on the main guitars? So that can now be at just a normal 0 dB sane-ish setting. Yeah, that's a nice kind of sound now. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, maybe a little much, but I like it. Oh, that's very periphery, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're going to have loads there. Yes, we are. All the delay. Is there a bit there as well? I'm going to leave that one dry, actually.
That's the first chorus, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm going to put quite a bit of delay on the one before it, just to throw your ear off. So. Oh yeah, so that's where I've got that kind of lower drone.
No, first time.
Yeah, so I only do the lower drone once, so it's in that kind of extra vocal section.
Yeah.
So let's have a listen to the track from somewhere in the middle of the intro and see how we get. Let's just see if I can make this sound even cooler by just dipping the guitars out apart from one. Yeah, so it goes ah.
Yeah.
And again. And even cutting the bass out as well there. Yeah.
That hits like a 10-ton hammer after.
Yep. What's this? Right, so this solo that I did here, that's not popping out at all. That's fine, that's editable. Start with volume. And
Have you spoke about your solo at all?
About what?
Have we spoke about your solo at all?
I don't think we have really.
So
No, yeah, so that's a good point. So this was 5150 as well with the Telecaster that I've got behind me. And so I used the Tall Beast Alnico for that. And then I used Micro Shift to give it this big stereo-y thing. Which, without it, it sounds very normal, so I wanted it to sound huge. Yeah. It's compressed to death because that's how I tend to like solos. And so I did it in a few sections, and it ended up being quite a kind of Mixolydian thing.
Steve, you need to show me how you play that bit, because that's just ridiculous.
It's actually a trick that I've done since I was about 12 years old. It's a proper cheat. Oh, see if you can see it in the corner, but it's a trick that I learnt years ago, which is sliding a scale down. It's all on one string, so it's that. So it's just
really.
Yep. That it's just.
It sounds ridiculous on that.
It's amazing.
It sounds like proper Peter Nilsson kind of vibe.
Yeah.
On that. I first heard you do that. I'm like, the hell?
Yeah, but it's amazing what bags of tricks people have that make them sound really good when it is just like it's just one of those tricks. For whatever reason, it became part of my playing vocabulary.
So you're essentially Bill Bailey, aren't you? Doing the edge.
Pretty much.
You turn off all your effects.
Yeah, to be fair, with some gain, that one still sounds okay, that one, without all the effects. In fact, without all the effects, it sounds like this, that little run. And that's just 5th fret harmonics and then push the neck from the back, so it goes... Yeah. And then... Hey, I'm in Slipknot, low string and brrrr. And then I just decided to Meshuggah the hell out of it. But the last bit, I edited in. I grabbed the tuning peg and just went. Brrr. That bit took me longer to record than the rest of the solo.
You know what? I'm not surprised.
'Cause-
Of every you, that's got to be the hardest thing.
Well, because it's not just a dive bomb. Thinking about it, it was actually like the chromatic meow 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 meow, that in one move, without clanking the neck. Or I recorded it in this room, which is a very small room. I'm touching the touching the curtain on that side right now. It's not a very big room that I'm working in. So trying to do all that with like no space to work in, that was fun.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it sounded phenomenal.
I thought it was great. I had a lot of fun.
Well,
So let's just.
It's whatever. It's a very when we were talking about you playing on it, it was like this is like if Per Nilsson was staying in Meshuggah permanently.
Yeah.
This is a free man Meshuggah. That's what it was. That was the goal.
I did kind of have the easy job throughout the rest of the song, though, of just going meow 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 meow.
That's the easiest. Lead guitarist in Meshuggah is the easiest bit.
Yeah, just look brutal and just go meow 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 meow. Yeah. Right, well, let's push this to the front then by pushing that compressor output a bit. And that Neve trick again. Neve 1.6K, little push. Right, so that was suddenly really loud, so that's going to have to go down a bit. That section was a bit loud as well. This is where automation comes in a lot on solos for me. Because solos seem like they shouldn't be that dynamic, but they really end up being because different frequencies stand out. There we go. That does sound cool and I want to push it, but I don't want to push it so far that the guitars afterwards sound weak.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But I think we're onto a winner there. Because there's a whole channel of squeals that I've not even addressed yet.
Yeah, so this was like the texture layer.
Right.
When I sent it over to you, this had like ridiculous choruses and stuff.
Oh, right.
This meant to be a really high kind of similar to your kind of guitar kind of thing.
All right.
So, but it was intentionally meant to sound ridiculous.
Okay, well, I'll just do a little editing because that went wee thump, wee thump. Yeah. You can actually see the low end thumps in there. Yeah. Someone breathes in with their fist. You can quote that. This guy breathes in with his fist.
Yeah, pretty much.
Who did this?
Lewis Williams, who is my tattoo artist. He's a phenomenal artist in general.
Yes.
And he was in a really early rendition of this when it was a band. And it just I got a message maybe last year saying I want to come back and do some heavy stuff.
Yeah.
I went, here you go. And that was it.
Awesome. Well,
absolutely phenomenal.
we'll get this mastered and then send it off
But
to him and be like, "Hey, so."
yeah,
Right. So
so yeah, this one is meant to sound ridiculous, like major reverbs, major chorus, basically the works.
okay. So I've copied the Howard Benson and everything from the Guttural track, but I've just pulled the grit up to nearly 100 and turned a bit
Yeah.
high end up, and we'll see where we're at so far. And I'll put some of this size in there for the space.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's see how that fits with the others. Right, I think I'll cleverly edit
He's a
them.
bit early,
Yeah,
wise,
yeah, that's what I was
you
gonna
get
say.
the idea of like the texture wise what I was thinking.
Yes, especially with layers like this, I'm not particularly afraid to just cut bits either.
Oh
Because
no.
with it being a layer, if it starts underneath another piece, that's cool. That also gets all the delay verb.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on. Where is that? Because that's probably going to have automation on that we don't want. Yeah, I've just copied.
Oh.
There we go. Remove the envelope completely. There we go. Now let's see how that works in the rest of the mix. It might need to come down a bit. No, it sounds brutal, but now all the guitars need a bit of a mid boost. So the guitars are going to go in their own little group, because I haven't done that yet, which is weird for me. Guitar bus. And that guitar bus is going to include all the rhythm guitars.
The originals and the clean DI.
Sorry?
Is it the originals and the clean DI?
Clean DI?
Or pretty much every. Well, what was my clean DI? That was bias effect.
Oh, yeah, all of them. Everything in one handy folder. Rumi says, now I've cut out the beginning of the words, now I can't understand the lyrics. But this carries the spirit of the main vocal. I mean, if you can dig out the words for me from somewhere, that'd be hilarious.
That'd be great. I think Lewis could do with that as well, to be fair. He tracked him.
Is he one of those where it's like, well, what does it say? I don't know.
I don't know. To be fair, it was the funniest thing. I sure took a picture of, but he's going in pig squealing and he has phone like wrapped around the mic as well. So it's like, what am I saying? What are we doing?
Awesome. So all the guitars are now in a folder. I'm pushing them by 1-ish dB at 1K, 1.6K, and it's got the virtual mix bus on. So I'm going to turn that off and turn that on and see if that just makes the guitars pop. Yes. Yeah. It goes from this to that. Yeah, the guitars suddenly just pop now.
Yeah.
That snare still needs a little something. Bass, is that got... That's not got the virtual mix bus on it, so that's going to get the mix bus just for good measure. What else have we got? The solo can have a mix bus just for the hell of it, because it's on its own bus. Why not? Let's see if the vocals. No, the effects group can have a mix bus, because that's got all the reverbs and delays and stuff, and it doesn't need all of this stuff. No, it does not. In fact, I'm gonna save this. Update current strip. There we go. So that when it loads up, I don't get all that stuff, because it's really annoying.
Say, I've never had that on mine.
The latest versions of Virtual Mix Rack have the Dream strip, which is kind of useful, except that the default one comes up every time and is really quite annoying because I use it differently on everything.
Yeah.
So the vocals, I am going to put... Oh, Mix Plus is already on the vocals, right? Cool, good. There we go. I was finding that the whole mix was getting dominated by something, and I worked out it was the low end of the bass.
Yeah. I mean, the bass is like 50% of this track.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so I've taken that down a bit, though. There we go. Hopefully, what I've just done on the compressor there is back it off and take the low end out of the compressor detector, because it was going on the kicks. And what I really want is a ba 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 hit.
Yeah.
Right, so the kick drum now is the only thing that doesn't feel right to me. So I'm going to add another copy of Trigger and send the kick, and literally trigger a kick on a virtual kit.
Yeah.
Which, yes.
So we're not resampling, we're
reinforcing. We're reinforcing, but because this is separate, it's outside of any processing, any compression, it won't affect anything. It'll literally just get some brutalness for us. Trigger kicks. Let's start with Dan kick and see how that sounds. Oh, it's muted. Green Day kick might be funny. Might do exactly what we want, actually.
actually kind of works.
Yeah, it does kind of work. Latency, latency's on live mode. I probably want latency to be on normal mode so I don't get phasing.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not quite doing it, but we're in the right ballpark.
Yeah.
And someone in chat just said new kick drum, please. I mean,
working on it.
Yeah, thanks for the input there, buddy. But you know, too much low end. Because that's one thing I don't really want here is a kick that's got tons of low end in it. Kick 4 is kind of getting there. Kick 5 is one we already have, which is that kind of thinned out beach ball. Kick. We're not far away. I can feel it. Kick 10. Yeah, someone just said kick 10. Yeah. I might have to EQ out then some super low end on this. Let's try that in without the rest of the kit and then with. Oh yes. In with kick 5. That works. Let's try it in the mix. We're getting there. It's just making it fit now. Yeah, I'm taking off the drum compressor there because I don't think we need it. Like I was saying before, in metal, quite often it just even gently it can just destroy things. There's a certain something in that in the overheads that's just annoying me and sitting on top of the whole mix. There.
Yeah.
And it's a bit too wide. Let's try that. Marty V in chat says that is a lot of music. I mean, if you want to call it that, sure.
Yeah, it's a very loose term, to be fair.
Yeah. I mean, as far as brutal
What?
guttural screaming goes, it's a pretty good song.
You gotta admit, Lewis's guitar solo with his pig squealing at the end, phenomenal. It's just stupid. Have you seen that section at the end?
Oh,
Oh,
let's have a listen to that. Yeah. Fits oddly well.
That's the worrying thing. It was just do some cool syncopate stuff, pig squealing. That's what he came out with. It was like that works strangely well.
Yeah. Just gonna find where the actual end of this track is. Oh yeah, for some reason the amps do that because I put a gate on them, so they kind of helicopter effect at the end and it sounds even more brutal.
I kind of like it.
Yeah, I'm not sure why, but the granafire doesn't seem to kick in for a second or two. But then when it does, you're like, oh, there it is.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, I mean, if I just play a section, say, oh, I've just loaded up Ozone 9, that's going to take a second to unpanic. There we go. Because I'm figuring this is a good time to do some volume maximizing and call it a mix.
Ooh.
But for now... Did you hear how they waited a couple of bars to come in?
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, I don't know why. If I hit play, I get nothing. Let's see, what's on that guitar? Yeah. So, as soon as I hit play, there's nothing on there for a bar or so, and then it goes, oh!
Really? It's like
yeah, it's bizarre, but it works. So
I wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Oh, we're playing. Okay.
Yeah. It's like, what you saying, mate? Oh, go on then. You know what I've discovered recently that's better than the maximizer in Ozone 9? You are going to absolutely laugh your backside off at this. It's like FGX.
Yes, bring it back, boy.
Yeah, so what I've started doing recently is, and this is the most convoluted way of doing this. I have two copies of Ozone 9 on the master bus. One just at the very end with nothing active, just so I can see the meters properly and everything.
Right, okay.
I mean, I might put an EQ in there just doing nothing. But that means that I can still read the meters for RMS and everything like I would if I was in Ozone.
Yeah.
But I can run FGX, which has really unreliable meters, it turns out, but just a really good sound. So if I whack the dither settings down, -1, output 24-bit, little bit of low punch and detail, and just push the gain a little, this sounds really good. See, the meters were showing me in Ozone a good -11 on the RMS, where Slate was only showing me -16.
Huh.
Alright, stop now. Ain't that bizarre? So, on Ozone, I probably don't want to use much. I'm noticing now that the kick and snare are way louder.
I was gonna say I'm okay with the kick, but I think the snare just fell too.
Yeah, but one of the joys of doing it this way is we can just mess around with that. So there's a mid-range presence preset now for the widener that I like, which is very very gentle, means it just saves me time. But yeah, I can go back to the snare now, take it back down that couple of dB, take that original kick down by a couple of dB and see how this works. See, the imager magically brings out things like guitars because they're all at the sides.
Yeah.
So yeah, by pushing the sides in the mid band, and apparently the toms are too quiet. I don't know. I kind of like them there, but let's try them a little louder. Not a single tom yet. There's a good set of tom fills. Cool, so I've turned them up by a good couple of dB, but I'm also... This is where Revival is really nice, because Revival I can add a bit of thickness and a bit of what they call shimmer, and they'll stand out the mix without sounding too heavily EQ'd. Yeah, nice. They're in there now. I don't want them to be overbearing. This isn't a Dream Theater track. I do love Dream Theater, but my god, his toms are ridiculous. That's
Right.
about it. I mean, you know you're onto something when you're not going absolutely crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
On yeah. I mean, if I compared this to something else as a reference, which I'll probably have to do off stream or as a separate stream because of copyright issues, then it
Mm.
might be that a reference track is quite different, and I'll have to kind of tonally balance it. But as far as
Yeah.
a general, like
Well,
including the intro here, I mean, I'm really happy with how this has turned out.
can we just say that bass is the VIP of this track?
Yeah.
That bass is ridiculous. That
Fen-
is a Squire Bronco.
Squire Bronco. But I'm telling you, Parallax, my god, for metal, it's
Dude,
it's the tone.
I know.
Wasn't that recorded with an Avalon U5?
Yes.
Yes,
It went into the Avalon U5.
you're kind of cheating a
And
little
then,
bit when you de-eyes an Avalon.
well, yeah, but it's one of them. It's smart investment. It's not big investment.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
I could
just
have got the ding wall, and I could have had the NG5 or NG3 or whatever kind of thing, and to get that similar tone. But that's a Bronco with an EMG.
yeah,
And
rid-
then a good Avalon that's used for more than just a bass.
yeah, that's true.
What can you say?
Mm.
It's a good signal going in, but I mean that I've never actually. I will openly admit I never actually used Parallax. I thought it's another bass plugin, not my kind of thing.
That's
They've
what
done
I
the
thought.
dark glass. That's all I need. And then that's just stupid.
It's yeah, I tried it with it's on free trial at the moment. I thought I'd just give it a go for the one of the mixes I was doing a couple of days ago, and I just played it and was like, hold the phone.
Yeah,
Yes,
that just sounds. It sounds like how do I put it? Like the Meshuggah Chaos Sphere is mainly a bass. To be perfectly honest,
yeah,
like nothing is mainly a bass,
mm.
and then and that's the kind of sounds that you get. Like
Yeah,
that's a bass tuned to the same octave as guitars.
and then just grinding.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yet, genuinely, the bass on the first Meshuggah album just tracked sounds like that, and it just looks like a brick because it's going through some kind of
Yeah,
limiter. So it literally, because I
exactly.
think they recorded it on ADAT machines or something like that, the first album,
I
and
think it was, you know.
so it was like, yeah, get your tone down on tape because that's all you get. And so he went right, okay. It's like, my
Well,
God.
it's interesting because you kind of hit on it before, Joe, using valves like that. I was watching the interview with Ulrich Wild,
Mm.
and he was talking about Ministry and Static X and stuff, and they were using MG 150s by Marshall or valve stays, and it wasn't about it being solid state or valve or anything like. It was about the tape machine
Yeah,
and how that reacted. So solid state amps sounded great when they were going to tape,
for metal at the
but
time, yeah.
yeah, exactly. But
Hmm.
that didn't translate when everything went digital
No.
because yeah, it didn't have that rawness to it where valves did.
Well, yeah, it's funny because tape naturally does that thump, thump, thump low end thing,
Yeah.
and the amps didn't, but together it did. But yeah, tube amps, especially to tape, can, especially for metal where there's a lot of low end, be overbearingly flubby,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you end up
Like you
fighting the
look
damn
at
thing.
like the Static X with Constant Death Trip.
Yeah.
It's a Marshall and a VHT. They should not
Ooh.
sound like that.
VHTs though, oh yes.
Yeah,
Uh,
but this is like 90s VHT.
oh no, 90s VHT
Solid
was
state.
better than you think it was. You've heard of Freet amps, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Freet VHT, same company.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he stopped doing VHT and became Freet, but it's all like Megadeth used VHT and stuff because they were the underground kind of. If you know about these, At the
Yeah,
time,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Although it was all rack gear, that they made amps in racks, and it got a lot of people like, oh, rack gear snobs, that kind of people. But yeah, here's something. I got myself some DI boxes. Talking of the Avalon,
Hey.
that are made in England. Perform arguably better than a Radial J48. Look at the size of it.
Okay.
Size of it in my hand.
Wow.
£26
Crazy.
from Orchid
Um,
Electronics. Yeah. Absolutely amazing. It's got no switches or anything, which is how they've made it cheap. It's automatically ground
yeah.
lifted. It's not even got a loop back out. It's not for that. It's literally for when you need a DI, like when a guitarist needs a DI or when a keyboard player
Yeah.
needs a DI. When you don't need anything fancy, you just need an in and an XLR out.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I got two of them.
Of course. Why not?
It's one of those things. I'll make a video about it. Yeah, sure you will. Yeah. And I will when I get some time. So I'm going to render this out at the end of this stream and have a listen to it in the car and then cry at how useless I am at mixing, because that's what we all do. But yeah, overall, unless there's anything else you want to add or change, I think that...
To be honest, I can't believe how it's out. Well, I can and I can't.
Yeah.
It's one of them. It sounds ridiculous, but I didn't expect it to be the bass really that saved it.
It's weird, isn't it?
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I didn't expect, like, I got a good tone now, over loud, and the dark glass plugins, this, that, and the other. It was acceptable, but I've never used Parallax and I've never used Granafire. So
No, well, it's
I'm
very new,
really
Granafire. Only came
'cause I
out
was
a few
looking
weeks
at the
ago.
yeah. I was looking at the 14 Nameless because of this kind of style stuff.
Yeah.
But now,
Well, that's
throw
it.
the curveball.
I was going to cycle through them. I literally today installed Nameless, NTS, and Granafire, and already had Archetype Nolly installed. And Archetype
Yeah.
Nolly sounded decent. And my first impression listening to demos of the Granafire was it was a one-trick pony and did like a sound, and I was very wrong, because that just sounds brutal.
Yeah, that's the heaviest I've ever heard this track. I've heard this track 7 years, like different renders from a rolling cube to a Granafire.
Yeah.
I've heard everything in between as well.
Yeah.
Pod farms and but yeah, that's crazy.
I'm very impressed. It's a serious step up.
Definitely. It's that 3D sound somehow.
Yeah. That's it, isn't
sounds
it? The way that it sounds huge but doesn't sound fake. Just have another quick...
I think that's the big thing. It sounds not... It's weird. It's hard to describe because it's not perfect. It just sounds realistic.
Yeah, let's have another listen. It sounds like something Fear Factory would be proud of. It's got lots of that grind.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not a tight guitarist by any stretch of the meaning, but that sounds like really strong, really in your face.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you want for this kind of track. The extreme metal or tech death metal, whatever you want to call it. It's obnoxious. It's kind of that stupid almost. It's almost a bit parody.
Yeah.
Like someone said in the comments, is that Mick Gordon Doom Eternal. It's meant to be over. I just didn't expect it for Granafire.
Yeah, well, I didn't expect it to be that particular one. I did expect it to be a neural amp. Let's put it that way. The neural stuff. The guys from Dark Glass who also own Neural, there's no secret. That is Doug Castro is the CEO of both companies. They have been absolutely killing it since day one. And when they come out with their hardware, when their pedal gets released,
Quad Cortex.
Yes, I mean, if it can sound like this in a pedal.
Yeah, have you seen the amp models in it?
Yeah, so it's got a lot of amp models.
All sorts, but what I thought was interesting is that it's not just physical version of the NTS or the Nameless or whatever. It's not just a physical version of them. It's completely different beast.
Yeah.
which I thought was so cool. Rather than just, yeah, this is our plugins in the box. There you go. This is just something else.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a good way of doing it.
Well, thankfully they've given themselves quite a bit of lead up time to it, but I think the
Oh yeah.
massive success of the plugins has really given them the budget to be able to have staff work on something like the hardware and
Absolutely.
yeah, have more people who are like DSP experts as well. Like, and I mean like hardware DSP experts as well, because the software they've got nailed down, but then they'll need more people on staff to literally sit with each type of amp to model them. They'll need people to sit
Yeah.
down and go like, how does a good chorus work, etc.,
Yeah,
etc.,
exactly.
etc. And that, I mean, even if they had some real geniuses on the team, they don't have enough hours in the day to do all of it for a pedal like that.
Exactly. For and for everything that's in it, because it's not just a few amps. Hey, imagine when you really look at it.
Yeah.
And like you said, you gotta have experts and go, okay, can you tell me the difference between a JCM 800 or JCM 800 and 2203? Which one's better? You gotta go.
Yeah.
You need people that really know what they're looking at, and then
Mm.
go, okay, well, how do I code that? That's the big thing. Is like the dark glass stuff sounds phenomenal,
Mm.
but that's resistors and that. But how does that translate to code?
That's, yeah,
You know,
that's it. I mean,
that's where the big thing is. And for the cabs and IRs, it's I don't understand because it's not simple. That's not a simple WAV file just being dropped on. There's something special going on in that background.
well,
It could be snake oil for I know,
here's the
but
thing.
something.
It's the impulse there. I picked two mics. They've got two full cabs with 7 mics each to pick from, and then you
Yeah,
slide them around a lot like you do in the Two Notes software. So
yeah,
you get infinite variable positions. And so,
exactly.
yeah, there's a lot that you can go from.
Mm.
And I just noticed something that's tricky. Like, even on the cabinet window, even though the head's there and it's really small, you can actually change the knobs on the head.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, you need pinpoint precision accuracy with the mouse, but it's doable.
That's a really good UI. The
Yeah,
fact that
it's the
you're
kind of
changing
thing.
windows, but they're not.
Yeah, I mean, as you change mic positions, you might find that you want to tweak your treble or presence or whatever. I do that quite a lot.
Yeah,
And so having the ability to do that on the same window, even though it's not kind of its primary focus, and I'd click the head to really bring that into relief.
yeah.
Yeah, that's very clever of them.
Mm,
Mm.
absolutely.
Anyway, getting off track a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah. My
So
bad.
no, it's fine. It is the end of the stream after all. So yeah, I mean, do you want to christen the song with a name?
I mean, we called it serotonin, however long, so let's just stick with that.
Right. And the band name? The Grumble Mumbles and the Ree Pigs?
Yeah, go. Let's go with that. I mean, it's fun.
Did I see the video I did with the neural box? Do you mean the one at NAM or like an actual one? Because I've not seen. No, I've not seen Rabia playing with the actual neural box, which I would imagine is slightly irrelevant at the moment because with everything that's going on in the world at the moment, even if you could get one, you can't get one. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way. Production's gonna be tricky. Plus
Mm,
the wait list was like a year anyway.
yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
rough.
Rabir would have had his hands on a very early prototype. At least that's one thing that they've not sugarcoated. They've not tried to say like, "Oh, well, we'll have them out as soon as we can," because it's like, well, you won't. not
Yeah,
not
but
not when you've
it's
never
not
made
like
hardware before.
exactly. It's not like a little trade secret what's going on.
Mm.
It's it's a worldwide thing. You can just turn on the news and everyone knows the situation is. and
Yeah,
you can
but I mean,
guess how it reacts from there.
that aside, just hardware production is hard.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I can tell you that from my friends at Two Notes, they've got a warehouse that's half full of stock because half of their products really sell and half of their products comparatively don't sell nearly as fast, and they don't know which ones until they've actually got them out there.
Yeah.
Like as a good example, the torpedo captor, they make a 4 ohm, 8 ohm, and a 16 ohm. And I saw on a tour of their factory the 8 ohm, the shelf was empty. They like kept a few back for artists and VIPs. I think the 4 ohm had quite a few still on the shelf because not that many people are going to go for a 4 ohm load box comparatively.
Yeah.
But that's hardware for you. But they knew that going in. But they're a big enough company that they could say, okay, well, next time we order a pallet of 8 ohms, we don't need another pallet of 4 ohms.
Yeah.
And so it's no bad thing for them. It's still a current product. It still makes sense for them. But if you're getting something made overseas and not hand making it all, right there, you don't order 10. You order a pallet or you order a crate. You order one of those tanker boat containers.
Your shipping container.
That's the one. Yeah, you order a shipping container full. If you want it to be affordable in any way where you can sell it and make a profit. Yeah. So yeah, if Neural absolutely nail that, I mean the other option is if they hand make them in Finland, how are they going to afford to, or how are they going to afford enough staff to do that, or how are they going to find the time to make enough to meet demand?
Well, yeah.
Because there's going to be a lot of demand.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
instantly.
It's not like Line 6, who owned by Yamaha, have the entire of Yamaha's manufacturing behind them at any given moment.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's not about Line 6 as a company. That's the parent company. That's the power they have behind them.
Exactly, yeah. Whereas as far as I know, Dark Glass and Neural are still entirely independent. And good on them.
As far as I know, yeah. So
anyway, yes, Serotonin by the Grumble Mumbles. We'll think of a good band name, and I'll see if I can put a link up in the chat when this is all exported out, so you guys can hear the finished article for the stream. So thank you everybody for tuning in. It's been quite enjoyable Tuesday evening. My rum and coke is long since empty, so it's time to get another one. Spend the last hour or so of the day chilling out with my lovely partner. Hit that like button if you haven't already. It's massively appreciated. And a big thanks to everyone who's supporting us on Patreon, especially now. It really helps the channel. So, the podcast will be back as usual on Thursday. Are you working on Thursday? I'm assuming so.
Yeah.
Because you work all the time.
Well, I'm off tomorrow, so that's why I was okay to do tonight.
Yeah,
so.
Good stuff. I do this every time because I've been saying, hey, I'm going to mix. Yeah, so, okay. Let's say Friday. Friday, I will mix a kind of an acoustic track with lots of instruments. Not just acoustic guitar. There's like cajon and different vocal layers and shakers and electric guitars with loads of effects. So I'm going to do a kind of acoustic indie track on Friday. Something completely different. Because having done metal in a row, I'm slightly worn out by it.
Yeah.
And I'll come back to it. And then probably the week after, I'll have kind of a Fleetwood Mackie type track. And then we're back to pop punk and metal again. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this quarantine season. Yeah. So hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to crack on with editing. I've got 5 videos in the pipeline at the moment.
Wow.
If not more. Probably more like 9. So yeah, this has actually been a really good chance for me to catch up and get videos out to all you lovely people. So yes.
You're practically frontline, aren't you?
Feels like it. But yes, so much to do all the time, so no complaints from me.
Exactly.
let's just play you out with a little bit of this. Where's the most insane bit? Let's go from the top. Let's just listen to a bit of this before we go. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Good night. It's really struggling to play the poor thing back, getting loads of dropouts because it's... actually, let's go back to the mixer. Really don't need that second copy of Ozone. That might free up some CPU space. And
let's just go for that.
Did I have
first chorus and solo?
Yeah, first chorus and solo. So that's how we mix extreme, like tech death metal.
Yeah.
Which close just about everything else on the computer that's running, because this is all the stream and everything running on one computer, ladies and gentlemen. My new laptop's an absolute monster, but it's even this thing's hitting its limits. So yes, stick around for the podcast on Thursday, and then yes, we'll see what happens in the rest of the week. Thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this, feel free to check out our other videos, as you can find here, or check out our Facebook and Twitter, or our Patreon page, which helps us to make more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.